Those words you just heard, those tragic last words, were the last terrified utterances of the crew of the Apollo 1. The Apollo 1 tragedy occurred on January 27th of 1967 when a flash fire swept through the command module during a launch pad test at Cape Kennedy. The fire killed all 3 crew members, Command Pilot Gus Grissom, Senior Pilot Ed White, and Pilot Roger B. Chaffee, without the spacecraft ever leaving the ground. The capsule was pressurized with 100% pure oxygen for the test, which drastically lowers the ignition point and accelerates combustion. The same cabin that had been packed with highly flammable items, including large amounts of Velcro, nylon netting, and foam padding, all of which acted as fuel. The crew had brought this issue up with the powers that be on multiple occasions. Investigators found that unprotected electrical wiring beneath the astronaut's seat had frayed due to repeated wear and modifications, which almost certainly sparked the initial flame. As the fire ignited and began to devour the combustible materials, the crew scrambled to escape, but they were trapped. The capsule featured a cumbersome inward-opening hatch design that, when combined with the rapidly expanding fire, instantly increased pressure inside the sealed cabin. The hatch was pushed shut with thousands of pounds of force, making it physically impossible for the crew to open it. According to their autopsies, the crew died from cardiac arrest caused by high concentrations of carbon monoxide and asphyxiation from toxic gases. Biomedical data from the NASA investigation indicates parameters returned to baseline rest levels within 15 to 30 seconds after the fire started, meaning the crew likely lost consciousness very rapidly before succumbing to the lethal cabin atmosphere. The severe third-degree burns sustained by the astronauts' bodies, along with their corresponding burns to the spacesuits, indicate that Gus Grissom sustained the most damage, with around 70% of his body being burned, followed by Ed White with significantly fewer burns at 25% of his body, followed by Roger Chaffee at 15%. Per the inquest, a majority of these burns were ruled as post-mortem, occurring after their nylon spacesuits and oxygen supply hoses burned through. The disaster led to a massive congressional investigation and a total redesign of the Apollo command module. NASA addressed these safety concerns by replacing pure oxygen during ground tests with a safer nitrogen-oxygen mix, completely removing flammable materials and redesigning exposed wiring, and introducing a new quick-opening unified hatch that could be operated in seconds. Seems too little too late. The heartbreaking fact is that none of these issues were new. Gus Grissom famously hung a real lemon on the spacecraft simulator to protest the vehicle's severe electrical, communication, and safety flaws. On January 22, 1967, frustrated by the rushed manufacturing, he picked a large lemon off his backyard citrus tree. When his wife Betty asked what he was doing, he stated that he was going to hang it from the spacecraft, and he did just that. It should be noted that it wasn't just Grissom raising concerns. All 3 members, Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee, were highly vocal about the poor workmanship of the North American aviation-built capsule. The bodies of Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee were removed from the Apollo 1 spacecraft in the early hours of January 28th of 1967, roughly 7.5 hours after the deadly flash fire began. The extraction itself took rescue crews approximately 90 minutes to complete. Although the pad crew managed to open the complicated hatch system within about 5 minutes, doctors and firemen initially halted removal efforts when it became clear that the astronauts were already gone. Officials decided to leave their bodies in place so investigators could photograph and thoroughly document the undisturbed scene. Once recovery officially resumed at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, extrication proved painstakingly slow. The flash fire, fueled by a pure oxygen atmosphere, reached extreme temperatures that melted the nylon interior of the cabin and the nylon netting, literally fusing the material and the astronaut spacesuits together. Crews had to take extreme care to carefully separate the fused nylon and disentangle the men from their seats and harnesses without destroying the forensic evidence. I need you to keep in mind that the Apollo 1 spacecraft fire reached temperatures exceeding 25,000 degrees Fahrenheit, or for those of you not on freedom units, 1,371 degrees Celsius. At 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, you have literally reached the exact temperature required to liquefy solid, high-carbon steel and turn it into glowing molten lava. If you need more help visualizing this insane heat, consider this. Standard stainless steel and high-carbon steel begin to liquefy at 2,500 degrees. By comparison, gold melts at around 1,900 degrees Fahrenheit. This was 600 degrees less, with none of the built-up internal pressure and for 1/4 of the time. When metal hits 2,500 degrees, it transitions from bright cherry red to a blinding, dazzling yellow-white glow. A standard catastrophic residential house fire burns at around 1,100 degrees, which isn't even halfway to what these astronauts experienced. Temperatures this extreme are almost exclusively reserved for industrial foundries, glass manufacturing, or volcanic magma chambers. Exposure to 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit causes instantaneous, catastrophic destruction of human tissues. At this temperature, which, let me remind you again, exceeds the melting point of structural steel, flesh instantly vaporizes, moisture boils explosively, and organic material flash carbonizes, leading to near instantaneous death. At 0 to 0.1 seconds, you receive instant third-degree burns across your entire body. Nerve endings are destroyed instantly, blessedly removing pain perception in milliseconds. Inhaling ambient air of this temperature causes immediate closure of the trachea, followed by explosive vaporization of all of the moisture in the lungs and the upper airway. At just 0.1 to 1 seconds, intercellular water boils and turns to steam, causing your cell walls to burst. Your soft tissue immediately chars, denaturing all proteins and rendering your vital organs non-functional. At just 1 second, the complex organic compounds in your bones and teeth break down, and your body is essentially reduced to carbonized remains or ash within seconds. And please keep in mind, the official report states that the astronauts succumbed to cardiac arrest caused by carbon monoxide inhalation at somewhere around 17 seconds after the fire began. Gus Grissom was a legendary NASA astronaut, one of the original Mercury 7, who became the second American in space and commanded the first crewed Gemini mission. He died alongside crewmates Ed White and Roger Chaffee in a cabin fire during Apollo 1 pre-launch test on January 27, 1967. Grissom was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery in Section 3, grave 2503E. A silver-gray casket was carried on a horse-drawn caisson, and he was buried with full military honors. The funeral service took place on January 31st of 1967. President Lyndon B. Johnson and First Lady Lady Bird Johnson attended the service at Arlington, sitting alongside the Grissom family. His casket was escorted by notable astronauts, including 5 of the remaining Mercury 7, Alan Shepard, John Glenn, Scott Carpenter, Gordon Cooper, and Deke Slayton, as well as Wally Schirra and John Young. The sudden tragic nature of the Apollo 1 disaster sent shockwaves through his family. Grissom's widow, Betty Grissom, along with his 2 sons, Scott and Mark, and his parents were devastated by the sudden loss, but maintained tremendous stoicism. Grissom himself had previously acknowledged the high risks of the space program, famously stating to the press, "If we die, we want people to accept it. We are in a risky business, and we hope that if anything happens to us, it will not delay the program." Betty Grissom was particularly vocal and determined in the aftermath of the tragedy, demanding answers and accountability from NASA and the government. Betty filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the spacecraft's manufacturer, North American Aviation, driven by her belief that negligence contributed to her husband's death and a desire to ensure that no other astronauts would face avoidable risks. In 1972, she settled for $350,000, equivalent to about $1.98 million today. As a result of her legal action, the widows of Chaffee and White received $125,000 apiece. Gus Grissom earned numerous prestigious military and space exploration decorations, most notably the Congressional Space Medal of Honor, awarded posthumously by President Jimmy Carter in 1978, and 2 NASA Distinguished Service Medals for his Mercury and Gemini flights. He was inducted into the National Aviation Hall of Fame in 1987. He was inducted into the United States Astronaut Hall of Fame in 1990, the International Space Hall of Fame in 1981 at the New Mexico Museum of Space History, and the Indiana Aviation Hall of Fame in 2020. Roger Bruce Chaffee was a 31-year-old United States Navy lieutenant commander and NASA astronaut. Selected in the 3rd group of astronauts in 1963, he served as pilot for the Apollo 1 mission. He tragically died on January 27th of 1967 alongside crewmates Gus Grissom and Ed White in a flash fire inside their command module during a pre-launch test at Kennedy Space Center. Chaffee was laid to rest on January 31st, 1967 in Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia, in Section 3, Lot 2502F. He was buried with full military honors right beside his Apollo crewmate, Gus Grissom. President Lyndon B. Johnson attended his service and sat in the front row with the Chaffee family to offer his condolences. First Lady, Lady Bird Johnson, accompanied the president. Many of his colleagues and neighbors, including astronaut Gene Cernan, who comforted Chaffee's young son during the service, attended to pay their respects. Following Chaffee's tragic death, his family was understandably devastated and in shock. His mother, Blanche, was famously photographed covering her face in profound grief at the gravesite, and his father later delivered a strained speech quoting the Boy Scout oath to honor his son's dedication. His 27-year-old widow, Martha, took comfort in sleeping with the American flag that had been draped over her husband's coffin. Despite the tragedy, his family actively championed space exploration. His daughter, Cheryl Chaffee, went on to have a 33-year career working for NASA at the Kennedy Space Center, frequently speaking on how the hard lessons of Apollo 1 paved the way for successful lunar landings. As part of the Apollo 1 crew, he was awarded the NASA Distinguished Service Medal posthumously in a 1969 presentation of the Presidential Medal of Freedom to the Apollo 1 crew. He was posthumously awarded a Second Air Medal. He was inducted into the International Space Hall of Fame in 1983 and into the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame on October 4th of 1997. Chaffee and White were awarded the Congressional Space Medal of Honor posthumously in 1997 by President Bill Clinton. Grissom had received this medal back in 1978. He was later awarded the NASA Ambassador of Exploration Award for involvement in the United States space program in 2007. On the television show Star Trek Deep Space Nine, a fictional 24th century spacecraft was named after him, designed by Doug Drexler. They decided to name it after Chaffee as a reminder about the dangers of space exploration. Star Trek and NASA have a long history of collaborations going back to the late 1960s when the television show made its debut. In 2018, a life-size bronze statue of Chaffee was unveiled outside the Grand Rapids Children's Museum in Chaffee's hometown. His wife, other family members, and astronaut Jack Loosma, a Grand Rapids native himself, were present for the event. Lieutenant Colonel Edward Higgins White II was an elite NASA astronaut and United States Air Force test pilot who made history on June 3, 1965, as the first American to perform a spacewalk during the Gemini 4 mission. He was selected as part of NASA's second astronaut group and was chosen as the senior pilot for the first crewed Apollo mission. White perished alongside crewmates Gus Grissom and Roger Chaffee when a flash fire erupted inside the Apollo 1 command module during a routine pre-launch test on Launch Pad 34 at Cape Kennedy, Florida on January 27, 1967. The high-pressure, oxygen-rich environment caused the fire to spread instantly, and the crew was unable to open the hatch in time to escape. Per his explicit wishes, Ed White was interred with full military honors at the West Point Cemetery in New York at his alma mater. His crewmates, Grissom and Chaffee, were buried at Arlington National Cemetery and lay beside each other. White's funeral and burial took place on January 31st of 1967. Many of NASA's core astronauts, including close friend Neil Armstrong, attended the services to pay respect to their fallen colleague and friend. Due to his status and the fact that his father was an Air Force Major General, the funeral drew high-ranking military officials and representatives from the space program. Then President Lyndon Baines Johnson was not present for Ed White's funeral. Originally, I had assumed it was because Grissom and Chaffee were laid to rest on the same day, and perhaps with timing and travel, it just wasn't possible for him to attend all three services. But I did find that the First Lady, Lady Bird Johnson, was in attendance to pay her respects for Ed White. So I'm not really sure why LBJ didn't or couldn't make it to Ed White's services. White's wife, Pat, was deservedly devastated by the loss, and NASA initially pressured her into agreeing to bury White at Arlington National Cemetery alongside Grissom and Chaffee for a unified public spectacle. Astronaut Frank Borman stepped in to advocate for the family, ensuring Pat's wishes to honor Ed's West Point request were respected. Pat carried heavy grief, tragically passing away by suicide 25 years later in 1983. The White children, Bonnie and Ed III, were very young when their father died, but they grew up to fiercely protect his memory and legacy. In later reflections and commentaries, such as in the Dallas Morning News, they noted that while the public easily remembers the triumphs of the space program, the tragedies and the steep human costs their family paid must not be forgotten. Astronaut Ed White's major awards include the NASA Exceptional Service Medal for his Gemini 4 flight, the Air Force Commendation Medal, and the Congressional Space Medal of Honor awarded posthumously by President Bill Clinton in 1997. He was inducted into the Space Hall of Fame in 1982, the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame in 1993, the National Aviation Hall of Fame in 2009, and the Army West Point Athletics Hall of Fame in 2013.